welcome. It is 48 hours since the Delhi 10/11 blast. But what we saw of that terror attack in India's national capital on day one has gone completely to the next level. It is much bigger than we first reported it, and I'm going to detail that for you here tonight. Thanks for being with me. Here are the headlines at 8. Was the Delhi attack planned originally as a 26/11 style attack on India's capital? We have reason to believe so, and I'm going to be showing you that on the show today. The plot is unraveling. The probe is picking up pace. Arrests have been made now in multiple states, from Haryana, from Jammu and Kashmir, all the way to faraway Assam as well. More arrests are in the offing. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Narendra Modi returned from Bhutan, went straight to the LNJP hospital in Delhi to meet the survivors and victims of the Delhi blast. He has assured complete action and justice in the Delhi blast case. He also chaired a top security body meeting this evening in the national capital. The Cabinet Committee on Security is believed to have taken multiple decisions on a national security perspective, not least on what India's next steps and response to 10/11 could possibly be. And away from the Delhi blast, big story, the Axis My India exit poll, one of the most respected and awaited exit polls, has given the BJP-led NDA an edge in the Bihar election. Remember, counting day is 2 days away. Let's see if this holds. It's a big story. It's a shape-shifting story in motion, literally, and I can tell you, viewer, right through the day in the newsroom, every single minute has brought fresh angles and fresh perspectives on this unfolding story on the Delhi blast. But I have handpicked 4 angles tonight. My first angle, like I said, is on the 26/11 flavor to what the Delhi blast conspirators were originally planning. I'm going to tell you about the similarities and what could have been a far bigger attack. My second angle is on Dr. Shaheen of the Al-Falah University, not very far from here in Faridabad, because on this woman are many angles of the conspiracy. Angle number 3 tonight that I'm looking at is the link to Turkey. I'm not personally very surprised about this, but the Delhi blast conspirators are believed to have traveled to Turkey to receive instructions from their handlers. And finally, the big burning question tonight is angle number 4. I'm going to debate Al-Falah University in Faridabad, under which many of the people involved in this terror blast were actually employed as doctors and professors and teachers. Is it a terrorist haven that should be shut down? I will be debating that also coming up at 8:30. But my lead angle tonight is on whether the Delhi blast that took place 48 hours ago was originally planned as a 26/11 style attack. There are alarming similarities between the details coming out now and the attack that took place on Mumbai in 2008. I'm going to detail some of those similarities for you, but first I want to show you how far things have actually gone today. The journey between 10/11 and the investigation that we have so far. Let's just show you some of those angles right now. Let's go to the first one. Mumbai 2008, Delhi 2025. The plot is unraveling, and this is not an exaggeration, as you will see. The information that we have now as part of the investigation suggests that things are in motion and were in motion for a far bigger terror attack than the one that actually happened. A sinister 26/11 type attack plan was most definitely in motion. Let's keep moving quickly. Every big Delhi target was on the terror radar, is what the intelligence agencies are telling us. Terrorists plan to make 200 bombs with 2,900 kilograms of explosives. So it wasn't just one little car bomb, but multiple weapons, reconnaissance, ammunition, all confirm this sinister plot was much more than one Hyundai i20 exploding in a crowded part of the Red Fort in Delhi. The Jaish-e-Mohammed's Faridabad module was activated post-Operation Sindoor, even though they were active before that. The conspiracy actually started sometime around January 2025. Pakistan has failed. Its plan has been exposed. Terroristan has clearly learned absolutely no lessons in this regard. So this is very, very important. Now let's show you the similarities. The similarities between what happened 48 hours ago here in Delhi and what happened during 26/11, which also, by the way, I covered in 2008. Similarity number one, both Delhi and 26/11, both target big Indian metro cities. One is Mumbai, the other is Delhi. That's one of the big, broad, obvious similarities. Similarity number two, both targeted iconic city landmarks. You saw what happened during 26/11 here in Delhi as well. Red Fort, possibly Parliament House, railway stations like in Mumbai and Delhi were also on target. Similarity number three, both conducted reconnaissance of potential targets. You had terrorists arriving in the city and traveling to all of these places and checking out locations. Similarity number four, both conducted surveillance of the actual routes to be taken, including by the vehicles and the terrorists to reach those locations to conduct those attacks. Similarity number five, the Delhi conspiracy also involved assault rifles. Kalashnikov and Krinkov assault rifles and pistols have been recovered from some of the terrorists who've been arrested so far, all of them doctors. Both had external supporting handler networks. One was in Pakistan, obviously. This one apparently in Turkey, but the Pakistan link certainly has been established. Now there are another similarity, both targeted mass casualty for psychological impact. Only 9 people were killed in Delhi, and I use the word only because if you compare it to 26/11, it was a far smaller number, but given what I've just told you before this, it is clear that they were looking for mass casualties. Similarity number 8, both included the use of sleeper cells. The terrorists in 26/11 came to Mumbai from the outside, but they had a sleeper cell help in Mumbai, in India, helping them with locations, with SIM cards, etc. In this case, the entire sleeper cell was actually based over here. Now let's show you all the targets on a Delhi map to give you a sense, a geographical sense of what it looks like. This is the city where I live, a viewer. So this is the national capital region where the terror attack happened. That is the blast site near the Red Fort. Now I will show you where the potential targets of the Delhi blast conspirators were. That's the Red Fort, just a few meters away from the actual blast site. This is the very, very popular and hugely crowded Chandni Chowk, which is a stone's throw away from the blast site. India Gate, couple of kilometers away from the blast site, could have also been targeted, also a place which is very crowded. The Parliament, which in 2001 was attacked, remember, famously by the Jaish-e-Mohammed in one of its earliest attacks. The old Delhi railway station at any given time, a very, very crowded place, was also a potential target according to the probe agencies. The New Delhi railway station, even more crowded, even more passenger footfalls. That's another place, very much like the VT station in Mumbai, which was also on target. The Constitution Club is a popular destination as well, which has a large number of people. So what I've done basically is paint you a picture of what this entire conspiracy may have looked like. It could have been on the scale or even bigger than 26/11. Now, the 2001 Parliament attack was orchestrated by this man, Maulana Masood Azhar, the chief and founder of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. He's sitting under VIP protection in Pakistan. And it is this man whose module in Faridabad, here in the national capital, that has perpetrated the attack. He was responsible and involved in some ways in the 2008 Mumbai attacks as well, even though that was much more about the Lashkar-e-Taiba. The Pathankot airbase attacks in 2016 were also by the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Just a very cursory look at some of the other attacks. 2019, the Pulwama attack was a Jaish-e-Mohammed attack by a sleeper cell based in Kashmir. And finally, the 2025 blast is being put down to the Faridabad module of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Remember, this man is under VIP protection still in Pakistan, somewhere in Rawalpindi, even though he is nowhere to be seen and hasn't been seen in public for many years now. Now it gets really interesting, and I'm going to close the circle on why I'm telling you all of this, viewer. Listen very carefully to this part. The Jaish-e-Mohammed has launched a women's brigade called the Jamaat-ul-Mominat. And this is where the lady doctor that we've been talking about enters this entire story. The women's brigade is run by Masood Azhar's sister. Her name is Sadia Azhar. Remember that name because I'm going to come back to it in just a moment. Now, Sadia Azhar's terrorist husband, Yusuf Azhar, was killed in Operation Sindoor 6 months ago. Sadia Azhar's husband, Yusuf Azhar, which is basically the Jaish-e-Mohammed's founder's brother-in-law, was killed during Operation Sindoor. You remember we talked about how many of his family members had been killed? His sister's husband was one of them. Now, the Jaish is radicalizing women in the name of religious education, just like they have been doing with men. Now it comes to the woman doctor here in India who was a member of that Jaish module, who's been arrested from Lucknow and is at the center of this conspiracy. She was one of the radicalizers and facilitators. Dr. Shaheen was tasked by the Jaish-e-Mohammed with setting up a Jaish-e-Mohammed women's wing in India. The very fact that she'd already been radicalized clearly shows that the Jaish was partially successful in its task already. Let's move to the next. Al-Falah doctor arrested after the Faridabad module bust. She was a doctor and worked at the Al-Falah University 30 kilometers from where I am bringing you this broadcast in the Delhi NCR region. Arms and ammunition were recovered from her Maruti Swift car in Lucknow. She's a close associate of her colleague Dr. Muzammil, who stored 2,900 kilograms of explosives in another person's residence, a person who also worked at the Al-Falah University, and is a close associate of Dr. Umar, another doctor, who exploded the car in Delhi. The chief bomber, the person believed to be the chief bomber, is also her close associate. Now, I sent out our reporters to the different target spots in the national capital today to just give you a sense of what they look like, because I know that our viewers tuning in from different parts of the country and the world want a closer perspective on this story and to be able to actually look at it. So I asked all of our reporters, 5 of them, to go to the 5 targets literally mentioned by our intelligence agencies as potential targets of the Delhi conspirators. Here's what they sent me.
There were several key locations all across Delhi that were recce'd by the terrorists of the Jaish-e-Mohammed's doctor module. One such location is right behind me and is the iconic Red Fort.
Well, I'm standing at India Gate. As you can see behind me is that historic monument. This was also one of the prime targets.
I'm currently present at the Lajpat Nagar market. Attack was planned across different regions in the national capital.
I am at the New Delhi railway station, one of the main targets of the terrorist organizations.
I'm now standing in front of Constitution Club of India, a very historical place which is situated just around 100 meters from the Parliament complex. This place was on the radar of the terror module.
So 9 people were killed, 1 car bomb went off, multiple amounts of ammunition, explosives, 2,900 kilograms of ammonium nitrate and other materials have been recovered. Assault rifles have been recovered, and with each passing hour, doctor after doctor, agent after agent, employee after employee of Al-Falah University and other institutions are being apprehended by our security agencies, making it very clear that what happened 48 hours ago in Delhi was only one small part of possibly what was a much larger conspiracy, probably even a 26/11 style attack. Joining me live now, privileged to be joined by 2 very respected voices in the security sphere. Lieutenant General Syed Atta Hasnain is an Indian Army veteran and one of India's most well-regarded analysts and commentators on security affairs. Good evening, General. Welcome. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, also columnist, geopolitics expert and a senior fellow at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. Abhijit, welcome. Thank you very much, both of you, for being with me. General Hasnain, to you first, sir. It's easy to take some things, very complicated things like terror attacks and conspiracies, especially when there are details still coming in, and say that, this was intended to be a 26/11 style attack. But it's difficult to ignore the similarities. It's difficult to ignore the strands that are coming out, from the investigation so far, General, that this was much larger or intended to be much larger than what we saw happen outside the Red Fort.
Shiv, thank you for inviting me for your program. Yes, firstly, let me compliment you. I think you've done some real footwork. Your correspondents have been all around. And I have no doubt about the kind of information that you have picked up. I can say that the moment I heard of this incident the day before yesterday, and one looked at the details coming in till half the night that night, one could make out that obviously this was not the intended place or the intended target as such. With the kind of investigation which had gone on for 15 days, it was becoming quite obvious that this was a very large network. There was a tremendous amount of resources involved in this. There had been a fair amount of reconnaissance carried out, and obviously the amount of explosive which had been recovered would ultimately have led to multiple attacks in different places. For me to conclude that this is a 26/11 type of attack may be a little premature, but I go along with your analysis. For me to contribute to this, it would be better that I talk about the larger picture.
Yeah.
And the larger picture, I would say, is that for long, one has been always feeling that we have done very well in Jammu and Kashmir. We have reduced terrorism to the barest minimum. Infiltration is down completely. Recruitment is almost in single numbers today. I think there was cause for celebration, no doubt, that we have got the better of terrorism as such. But remember, in this kind of an environment, it is networks which finally remain the most important thing.
Yes.
If you have not been able to neutralize the networks and it never becomes evident that you have finally achieved the neutralization, they will always return at some stage or the other. Now, it's been 15 years since the J&K networks were taken out from all our urban centers all over northern India.
Yes.
There were connections, sleeper agents everywhere, resource mobilization which used to go on at that time. That had all stopped for the last 15 years. Now, obviously, there is a revival of some of these networks within Jammu and Kashmir, and from there a proliferation back to those various urban centers today here. That is the real and live danger which is existent. I think we were singularly fortunate. The intelligence agencies have done a marvelous job by picking up all the threads 15 days earlier, having reached the stage where there was no intelligence failure or anything of that kind which people are alleging perhaps. What they have been able to do is they have been able to avert a major catastrophe.
Very well said.
Which is what could have happened.
Yeah.
And the details you are outlining out may come 70%, 80%, 90% true, but there's no doubt that there was a much larger mission which was in place.
Yeah.
And details of that will come out as we go along with the investigation.
Abhijit, in your view, what were the Delhi conspirators? What was this module trying to do? I think it's very clear that what ended up happening wasn't really the end game, what wasn't really the plan. What, in your view, were they trying to do?
I think personally that they were trying to transport whatever this explosive was to keep it safe. You see, this week alone, we have the security agencies have caught some insane amounts of explosives, a chemical weapons factory for the manufacture of ricin, Glocks and Berettas, and AK-47. Clearly, these guys got spooked that the network somehow had been compromised and exposed, and they were trying to get to a safe place. This is not, I suspect, this is not the way that they expected the bomb to go off. Primarily because we know the way these things happen. You see, when the visuals are playing right now on your screen, in that area, had there been shrapnel, which is basically ball bearings or coins or something like that wrapped around the explosive, the damage, the number of people would have killed would have been 50, 60, something like that. Because, car glass and car metal is very thin. It doesn't actually protect you from ball bearings and things like that. The second method that is used in Kashmir is the double tap, where you wait for the first responders to come, ambulances and things after the first explosion. And when the police, ambulances and everybody is close by, then the second explosion goes off. It was none of that. I think this was an unsafe transport gone wrong when they were trying to relocate. This must have been some kind of a backup redundancy plan in case they got exposed.
Okay.
And I think we're very lucky. I know this is absolutely no solace, and this is going to sound very harsh to the 12 people who died and their families. But look, it could have been 1,200. I will agree with General Hussain. It wasn't 26/11 exactly. History doesn't repeat, it rhymes. This would have been, given the amount of explosive, I don't think this was going to be a shooting attack. This was going to be explosives placed in all kinds of very heavy traffic public areas. And, I think the Mumbai blasts of the 1990s, where 300-400 people would die in blasts, I think that is something of what they were going for. That said, Shiv, let us be very clear about one thing. This has come about because of Pakistan's proximity to America. If you remember, they carried out the parliament attack just 3 months after 9/11 because they felt so emboldened that America now has to depend on them. They are you remember, it is the same pattern. The moment they cozy up to America, the Americans tell us it is actually a break on their recklessness. It is in fact an encouraging factor. They cannot resist doing this kind of thing.
No, this is an important point that you make, and obviously something within the geopolitical churn that has thrown up a pattern. But I want to zoom in once again, and these are great broad points that the both of you have made, because the face of the Delhi attack is Umar, Dr. Umar, who is believed to have died in the attack. He's believed to be the bomber who was driving the car that exploded. But the face of the attack among those still alive, among the conspirators, is this woman, Dr. Shaheen, who was arrested in Lucknow. Now, her involvement in the entire conspiracy is actually perplexing because she's a doctor, a medical doctor who worked at the Al-Falah University, worked in that university in Faridabad. She was arrested from her parents' home in Lucknow, and it was from her car. She was part of the Jaish-e-Mohammed module that we were just talking about, actually heading it and trying to recruit more women. She was recruited to head the JEM women's wing in India and create a sort of women's module here in India, likely to be in contact with Pakistani handlers. We don't yet know why or how. Or ammunition and weapons were recovered from her Maruti Suzuki Swift vehicle as well. The Jaish-e-Mohammed's Pakistan women's wing is headed by Maulana Masood Azhar's sister Sadia, as we just pointed out. General Hassan, I want to come back to you on this. From the broader challenge that we're talking about as far as white-collar terror is concerned, multiple doctors who've been arrested. This woman, appeared to be hiding in plain sight. A doctor, B, a woman, C, living a pretty visibly ordinary life. It must have been very difficult for the intelligence agencies to crack this kind of thing. And from what we know so far, she was directly possibly in touch with the JEM in Pakistan, trying to create a kind of women's Jaish-e-Mohammed module here in India. General Hasnain, your view on that?
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to the involvement of women, we've not had too much of this in Jammu and Kashmir as such. And this is not really a surprise because at some stage or the other, women would have got involved. And their finger of suspicion is often not sort of pointed towards women in most of these cases. And they are the ones who can sort of function under the radar for fairly long Men, it is men who, you have arrest one and you can probably break a complete network. But women is much more difficult to focus upon them. The second aspect that I will definitely like to comment upon, Shiv, is the fact that we do not have a history of suicide bombing in Kashmir. We have had just about 4 or maximum 5 suicide bombings, the last being Pulwama, right? To my mind, even this fact that Dr. Omar got blown up in this car that day, it seems improbable that he was attempting to try and blow himself up with the car. Probably he was going somewhere to plant these IEDs, etc. And to my mind, my speculation only is that he seems to be some kind of a YouTube bomber who has learned how to put together bombs through the YouTube route. And where probably is not a complete professional. This has become difficult of late because there aren't too many bomb handlers in Jammu and Kashmir at the moment.
Yeah.
That I'm sure the intelligence agencies know. And we have been speculating on this for a long time. So much of this thing is happening online. Education online, directions online, recce online, and things like that. And invariably in these kind of cases, these issues remain at risk. A risk of getting revealed very soon, or risk of not being professional enough. We are fortunate that such circumstances existed.
Abhijit, Dr. Shaheen recruited to create a Jaish women's module in India. Nothing of this kind has ever, at least as far as I know, been attempted before. What do you think? Do you think she would have been successful in already creating some part of this module?
I'm not surprised at all because, you find a lot of women suicide bombers in West Asia. You find a lot of women terrorists in West Asia. And, it's a matter of time. This Six Sigma program where everything is coordinated in corporate governance. Terrorists also have the Six Sigma. There's online learning modules and things like that. ISIS used to be very famous for self-radicalization. The second thing we should never be surprised about is that terrorists end up being, if you actually look at the history of terrorists, many of them end up being extremely qualified, white-collar, high-income professionals because they have a much greater exposure, much more leisure time to get radicalized and things like that. If you remember the Sri Lanka bombings, they were carried out by one of the richest families in Sri Lanka. So I'm not surprised about this. I am not even surprised that they are using a minority university to mask, because this is the place where you would go to radicalize young minds and create your network and things like that, right? This all fits into the modus operandi we've seen. But General Saab is right. It is the first time we've seen this, to my knowledge. It is the first time we are seeing this in India. The problem now, of course, is this is going to inconvenience a lot of people because women were generally kept out of these things as a rule. That is no longer going to be the case. But understand how this is going to work. This is actually going to feed the narrative. You've already seen a whole bunch of the usual suspects on Twitter, saying, oh, this is the time for peace. It's the system that went wrong, etc., etc. The next time women get picked up, they're going to say, oh, what was it? School headmaster's son, was it?
Yes, that's right.
A wife of oncologist or something like that will be the new thing. And, it feeds more radicalization narratives.
No, you're right. And, the one strand of the investigation is going into whether this Jaish women's module has actually taken root in any form whatsoever, because Dr. Shaheen is the only woman who's been arrested in this conspiracy so far. Before I go back to General Hasnain and Abhijit, we've got some breaking news coming in from Pakistan-occupied Kashmir now. After the Delhi blast, a significant meeting of the Lashkar-e-Taiba has just taken place apparently in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. These are images that are just coming in. It's related. That's why I'm telling our viewers this. Lashkar terrorists were seen being welcomed by local politicians with flowers. This is in Kotli in POK. A key meeting held between Lashkar-e-Taiba leaders Abdul Rauf and Rizwan Hanif, deputy chiefs of the Lashkar-e-Taiba's POK unit, serves as a main link between the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists. Just a reminder once again that these are linkages of terrorists being welcomed, normalized in POK by the Pakistani state, and that continues as normal. Just a reminder as the Pakistan link becomes very, very visible in the Delhi blast, because after all, it was the Jaish-e-Mohammed that conducted it. Here is business as usual as far as terrorism is concerned in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Now I want to come back to 10/11 Delhi, the Delhi blast, because this is my third angle tonight, and that is the link with Turkey. Now, in the 26/11 attack, the handlers were sitting in Pakistan. We've even had phone taps of that. This time, NDTV's crime team, following the story, learns that the conspirators had traveled to Turkey, where they had received instructions from unknown handlers. Umar, who was the bomber in the car, and Irfan, who was the... Let's just go back to the earlier slide for a moment. Irfan, who was the imam, considered to be the mastermind, locally speaking, for this Jaish module, they had traveled to Turkey to meet with a Jaish-e-Mohammed handler. Now, that Jaish-e-Mohammed handler was presumably in Pakistan. Maybe they met in Turkey in order to not call attention to any suspicious activity within Pakistan, because international agencies are watching Pakistan, but they actually traveled to Turkey. Now, Turkey is a country that has not ever been India's friend when it comes to the war against terror. The Faridabad module became active after Umar and Irfan actually went to Turkey. So now let me tell you about Turkey's history as far as India's war on terror is concerned. And this will tell you why Turkey has never really been a benevolent partner or even a diplomatic friend as far as this is concerned. I'm asking a question that a lot of people might find controversial, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is Turkey a new fountainhead of terror? India and Turkey have diplomatic relations, but it has supported terror groups in the Middle East. They've got a leader who is a person who has spoken out in support of the Pakistani deep state. They support the Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood. This is a country that is one of 3 countries to support Pakistan after the Pahalgam terror attack. They did not condemn them. President Erdogan didn't condemn the Pahalgam terror attack personally or through his government. We all saw that in Operation Sindoor, Turkey not only provided arms and ammunition and drones to Pakistan, but provided human technical support on the ground during Operation Sindoor as well. Pakistan used Turkey-made drones to target India, and some of their technicians were even killed in India's attacks on various bases. They've supplied multiple drones to Pakistan, like the Bayraktar TB2 and the Akinci drones to Pakistan. So the Turkey link is very, very clear. Okay, let's go back to our guest now. General Hasnain, the conspirators traveling to Turkey to meet with a potential handler. We don't know if the handler, was someone who traveled from Pakistan or elsewhere. That detail is not there yet, and I don't want to report something we are not very clear of. But the fact that they traveled to Turkey, Umar, the main bomber and a person considered to be the mastermind, what do you make of that, sir?
See, Shiv, you go back to 26/11 and you remember that was not the period of WhatsApp. That was the period when you was working on satellite communication most of the time. Most of the conversations which took place in the control from Pakistan were on satellite communication. Today, the world has transformed completely as far as communications are concerned. You can sit in the United States, you can sit in Alaska and control this kind of a thing. So obviously, they have gone to a friendly environment, perhaps. What I can speculate is that they've probably gone to a friendly environment. If I were to do an intelligence analysis of this whole situation and see which is the ideal place to go to, I would also perhaps target home on to Turkey. The Middle East is India friendly. Most of Middle East is India friendly. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, anyway, you got a huge Indian presence there. You have a diaspora present there. We have had many of our people, criminals, etc., who have been, brought back from there successfully. So Turkey is not a country with which we've had that kind of a relationship. So when it comes to these inputs, and if they are entirely reliable, I would definitely go along with them and say they have chosen perhaps the right place from where to operate, because that's the nerve center from where actually a very anti-India kind of a narrative builds up. But this is all at the moment based upon the inputs that you're giving me. I don't know how far these inputs have been verified so far.
Yeah. No, I take your point very, very clearly. Abhijit, is assuming this information is by and large correct, and the record that I've just spelled out, is Turkey in some ways safe ground for anti-India elements and terrorists potentially?
It's actually been for quite some time. If you look over the last 10 years, Turkey kind of became the sugar daddy for Pakistan's terrorism industry. You saw all the, not all, but a lot of children of terrorist leaders or All-Party Hurriyat Conference leaders. They used to get these scholarships to go study in Turkey. You find a huge number of these radicalization modules on Twitter where, Kashmiri students still are Kashmiri students who surprisingly, for some reason, rock up in Turkey. You've had too many people, in fact, who have been arrested under UAPA and other provisions, who, go to Turkey very often. You've also had, of late, much more ramping up. The Turks had toned down. They'd always been very close to Pakistan. In fact, they were the ones who helped Pakistan get over the F-16 shortage when the Presler Amendment sanctions had come on their F-16s. It was Turkish aerospace industries that helped them. But they had toned down their rhetoric in between. Under Erdogan, it has ramped up massively. And let's not remember, a lot of these, relatives, either the children or grandchildren of the All-Party Hurriyat Conference people, are employed by TRT, Turkish Radio TV, which is freely allowed to stream in India. You look at their program and content, it has consistently been hostile. You also remember, of course, that we got Chelebi, which was the aviation services company, kicked out during Operation Sindoor. We had seen exactly how they behaved during Operation Sindoor. They've clearly crossed a red line out here. I refuse to believe that people who knew what the Saudi embassy did to that Khashoggi gentleman didn't know that this kind of a meeting was happening, because their counterintelligence is very good.
Yeah. Is there, diplomatically speaking, Abhijit, very quick final word on, as far as Turkey is concerned, do you think this is going to lead to something between India and that country? Earlier in 2611, it was India and Pakistan, which is an ongoing issue. Would this lead to anything?
No, because I don't think we can prove. We can prove that the meeting happened. We can't prove Turkish knowledge of the meeting happening.
Yeah.
And they would basically say, well, you haven't designated these people terrorists. So, anybody's free to come to Turkey and meet anyone. Why should we have, stop people from coming?
Story in motion, like I said, new details have emerged even while we've been doing this broadcast, but that's how it is, 48 hours after the Delhi attack. General Hasnain and Abhijit, a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time and being with me tonight on this big, big story here on NDTV. On the other side, a story that I promised I would put on the table here on the show. Al-Falah University in Faridabad, part of Delhi, the Delhi NCR region, is where these terrorists came from. Should it be shut down? Is it really a terrorist den? At the heart of the Delhi terror attack 10/11 is a quiet, unassuming, innocuous-looking university in the Delhi National Capital Region, just about 30 kilometers from where I'm standing. You've obviously heard the name of it already. It's called the Al-Falah University in a place called Faridabad, which is a Delhi suburb in Haryana. That's where all of the Delhi terrorist conspirators belong. That's where they were medical doctors, but that's where they worked. The Al-Falah University in Faridabad. The question we're asking today, is it a terrorist den? Is it a safe haven for terrorists? Is it a terrorist net? It was set up in 2014 by something called the Falah Trust. It has been recognized by the University's Grants Commission since 2015. It has engineering and medical courses in a 70-acre campus in a small village called Dhauj in Faridabad. and has more than 700 students. It houses about 650-bed charitable hospital as well. So it is a large facility there. Now, 3 terror doctors, one of them dead in the bombing itself in which he was driving the car, and 2 doctors, including Dr. Shaheen and Dr. Muzammil, worked there. They were employed by this university. Dr. Umar is the one who blew himself up in the car. Could have been accidental. We don't know that. Dr. Muzammil, that's the guy there. It was from his location that 2,900 kilograms of explosives were actually seized. And Dr. Shaheen, I've already told you about, ammunition and rifles were seized from her vehicle. How did the university turn into what some people are calling a Jaish-e-Mohammed den? How could activities of this kind literally happen on their campus? Now, the university itself, now the Delhi bomber taught at this university. Dr. Umar, who blew up the I-20 car, literally taught in the Al-Falah University. Dr. Muzammil also taught at the university. That's where all the explosives were found. And Dr. Shaheen was recruiting women for a women's wing through indoctrination at the Al-Falah University. These are the 3 doctors. There's also someone called Dr. Nisar Hassan, a professor who was sacked in 2023 by the Jammu and Kashmir administration for alleged terror links. He was hired by the Al-Falah University. There was a Maulvi who lived on the Al-Falah campus who has also been arrested for radicalizing staff on campus. Its accreditation lapsed 5 years ago, but its website still says that there is accreditation there. So the question now is, Al-Falah University, which has been functioning for over a decade right now, is it a terrorist safe haven? They've put out a statement saying that they had nothing to do with these people's terror-related work. They only are related to them in an official capacity. So the question now is, should Al-Falah University be shut down as a result of what has been uncovered? And how many more Al-Falah universities are out there with little terror cells functioning undetected on their campus and pretty much in the atmosphere where learning is supposed to happen? Joining me live now, Swati Chaturvedi, very popular columnist, commentator, senior journalist, and we also have Dr. Akriti Bhatia, who's a sociologist and an ex-assistant professor at Delhi University's Miranda House College. Thank you very much to the both of you for joining me. Swati, I want to come to you first because I know you've posted on social media asking why Al-Falah University hasn't simply been shut down. Tell us why you think so.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Shiv. And first of all, I'm very, very happy that you're keeping the focus on this awful terror blast, despite every other channel, focusing on exit polls, etc. We need to keep the focus on, because otherwise nobody's going to get justice for the kind of terror attacks we see now almost every 6 months. Now, what I said was very provocative. It was deliberately provocative, Shiv, because, what sort of university is this where you have terror teachers, number one, and number two, if you look at the details of this university, they were supposed to originally be set up to, help the Mewat, the Muslims in Mewat who are very backward, the Mayo Muslims, as a sort of a locus to give them education, to kind of provide much needed education to the Mayo Muslims. Now look at the pattern of the people who are studying here. Why is nobody monitoring all this? Why is this university set up in Haryana ostensibly to help the Mewat, the backward Muslims of Mewat, suddenly such a den of people from Jammu and Kashmir? It's almost like, we are deliberately not asking the questions. Why should teachers, lecturers who've been sacked for sedition? That teacher was actually sacked by Jammu and Kashmir for being a terror supporter and for sedition, of a very tough section of the of the law. He is finding employment here. What kind of vetting are they doing? And what really is going on? Why is none of this being monitored? And then tell me, if 13 people have died, why is this university still standing? Why is it open? Why are we so soft on terror?
Akriti Bhatia, do you agree with what Swati Chaturvedi says, that there is no explaining something like this happened, because the university says we had nothing to do with this, we don't know what these professors were doing, we only know that they are here on academic work. How can they wash this off?
Thank you so much, Shiv, for having me and for raising this very critical debate issue. And it's definitely very condemnable that such a ghastly attack has happened, and the links have been found with an educational hub. And I am not denying that campuses cannot become hotbeds of ideological dissemination. But in this scenario, we really need to probe much deeper and find whether the management and whether the topmost founders of the university, whether we can actually implicate the entire university as an institution if there's an alleged involvement of students or staff in criminal acts. So this cannot automatically implicate the entire university and the system as faulty. So and therefore there are lapses, which is very clear, and it's something that needs very rigorous kind of investigation. There should be background checks, and the university heads have said that they are open to all kinds of and they are going to cooperate with all kinds of investigation. So I think this whole idea that we need to close the university is something which is an extreme step, because closing universities won't solve the problem. It could be a counter.
I take your point, Akriti Bhatia, but I would submit that 2,900 kilograms of ammonium nitrate, an explosive material, a professor sacked for terror links being then employed by this university, at least 3 terrorists being on your payrolls, being directly linked to the Delhi blast, all paints a very sorry picture, if anything at all, if not direct complicity in creating an atmosphere where something like this happens. Swati, you don't agree?
I totally agree with you, Shiv, because either if it's cupidity, either it's cupidity or it's stupidity. Clearly, this university has not got its act together. And by the way, we need to send a message. If 13 people die, and if something is the epicenter of terror, it is the hotbed of terror, where you have lecturers. No, we are not exactly talking about students here. We're talking about lecturers who are involved, doctors who are involved in actual terror incidents where they're blowing up innocent people. Why are we not sending a message that this is not, we are drawing a red line? If you are doing this kind of nonsense on your campus, any university, then I'm sorry, this is not going to happen. The problem is we never set examples. Our red lines are porous. They're always, getting redrawn. Why don't we send out a big message here saying that we are sorry that, what university is this? There's no vetting process where you're employing people who've been sacked for terror links, for God's sake.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of terror India is facing. We know. We are all aware of what we are living in. We've just had Pahalgam happen, and then you have a university sitting in Haryana, which is acting almost like a center for the Jaish in India. It is like Murid Ke. It is like Murid Ke in Haryana.
And given the details, Akriti, and I take your point, I completely support that there needs to be a thorough investigation. But I disagree when you say that you can't tar the entire university with the same brush, and the leadership, everything needs to be checked, because the fact is this was an entire conspiracy that was practically hatched from that campus.
The leadership is terror tainted.
So it probably if these 3 people have been found, and this woman was recruiting, and the Maulvi was radicalizing people on the members of the staff, it's impossible that this could have been just stupidity on the leadership's part.
I totally agree, but at the institutional level, I still believe, Shiv, that we need to find some concrete, because it's true, there are also thousands of innocents whose academic operations will be halted. And I completely agree that nothing comes above national security, but we still need to, these are still alleged links with the university. These people have to be, and this Jammu and Kashmir governor, why was he not sent to jail? Why was he sent scot-free? It's a very severe kind of allegation if there are terror links. And of course, hiring such a person is equally very problematic, and it could be an oversight which has happened, and it's something that needs again due probe and punishment as well. But collectively punishing thousands of people from all faiths, and if you look at it's something that needs to be doubly checked, and then such a massive action. Also, if you look at look at some of the NIA and other kinds of links that were found with some very violent incidents, and also terror links with some professors in Delhi University have taken place, and there have been inquiries, they have been sent to bars as well, but the entire university premises were not shut. So this is like, if you find rats in a room, you do not burn the entire room. You target the rats and you kind of burn them, unless you find the room itself, generating something like that. And that is where we don't have proof yet, which should be very, very proactively done.
Okay.
And there are different ways to look at severe, rigorous auditing, transparent auditing of records, background checks, ensuring. Also with the kind of
but that is exactly what appears to have not happened at all at Al-Falah University. And Swati and Akriti, you'd be surprised, maybe not so surprised to know that I spent a month and a half in Kashmir this year covering Operation Sindoor, and all the friends I made there in different places on this particular story of Al-Falah, they've been sending me messages since yesterday saying, you are a fool if you think Al-Falah is, just a one-off case. There are campuses across where these cells are breeding, and, the atmosphere and regulations are being made in such a way that these things can actually happen, and the leadership looks the other way. Swati, so Al-Falah is not a one-off case.
Just shutting all those campuses or something much more
I'm
in
not
terms
at all
of,
surprised.
I agree with Akriti when she says a bigger solution is necessary. But yes,
and
Swati.
also the question of radicalization of educated youth, that itself is also something.
No, I want to
needs
Shiv,
to be,
make the point what
unpacked
Dr.
in
Gupta
this
said,
scenario.
that the Delhi University professor were caught with terror links. They weren't actually caught carrying out terror incidents. There is a difference. If you say there's a conspiracy, there are people examine the roles of the conspirators. Here, this is not a conspiracy. This man was a terrorist. He died killing 13 people. This woman and these other people, they are not some vague conspirators who are supporting some vague idea.
He was doing
These
that.
people were actually involved in a terror act. We need to send a message that this university, which has a shambolic vetting system, which has a shambles leadership. In what leadership? Why should this leadership not be punished? They are aiding and abetting terrorists. So why shouldn't they pay a price? Why shouldn't this terror factory be shut down?
There
as
are
an example,
so many private universities that are just, I being in the academic space, I know of the kind of irregularities, how plagiarism, it's just very small things go unnoticed. And this is such that's what I'm saying, that, if it's happening in other campuses as well,
people have died.
then we really need to have some ways of and mechanisms of really very strong oversight. That is very important. And I still feel that without and the moment we get any links with the top management, I think it should be this act.
The spotlight.
This is the first thing that needs to be done.
The spotlight is going to remain on Al-Falah. I want to ask all of our viewers to also watch NDTV tonight through prime time at 10 p.m., 10:30 p.m. We've got a live report from outside the Al-Falah University. On NDTV, we are very fair. We don't call for any victimization of any kind. But we're going to be speaking to students and teachers of Al-Falah and see what they think as well. Don't forget to tune into that. Swati and Akriti, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for being with me here tonight on NDTV. It's our #1 story by far. Thanks for watching. The news continues on the other side of this very short break. The buck stops here with Padmaja's next.